couple of weeks ago, I published a video, one of my little skits, where I'm watching a clip of something from Fox News, and the presenter in the clip says something that inspires me to get up and get out of my bubble and go interact with people and try to connect across the political divide. So I grab my hobo bindle and I set off down the road and I walk from my home here in good old reliable blue state Maryland down to deep red Alabama. And I walk into a bar, and I ask the bartender, a fellow white person, if he serves a particular brand of beer, and the bartender replies that the only thing they don't serve there is... And he's about to say the N-word when the shot cuts back to my living room where I'm returning home from my excursion, and I delete the Fox News app from my TV and sit back and enjoy the comfort of being back in my bubble. I got a comment on that video from someone who said, yeah, but racists don't talk like that anymore. They don't use slurs. They express their racist opinions in more subtle ways. I wanted to address that. There are two details in that skit that are not true to life. That doesn't matter to me because those details are part of the gag and I wrote them the way they are on purpose. It's a comedy sketch, not a documentary, but nevertheless, just for the record, there are two things in the skit that are wrong as compared to my real life. The first thing is that I had the Fox News app on my TV in the first place. Not true. I don't watch Fox News. That was just for the bit. And the second thing is that I had to walk all the way to Alabama to hear another white person say the N-word. Despite what the person who left that comment may believe, racists do still talk that way. They do still use slurs. They do express their racist opinions in extremely overt, vulgar, direct language. If I wanted to hear another white person say the N-word in real life, I wouldn't have to go to a bar in the Deep South. I'd just need to go to any random bar here in Hagerstown where people of color are not typically among the clientele. Are you a white person who wants to hear other white people say some racist shit? Some out-in-the-open, mask-off racist shit? Get yourself into a space with nothing but other white people in it. And wait. And if you come here to Hagerstown, you won't be waiting too long. Because Maryland may be a deep blue state when it comes to presidential elections, but the part of it where I live is for sure no stronghold of progressivism. Western Maryland is right-wing and racist as hell. That scene in my skit is loosely based on an actual experience. Not mine in this case, but someone I knew. This was about, 14 or 15 years ago, and this acquaintance of mine was passing through Clear Spring, the tiny little town about 10 miles down the road from Hagerstown, which just so happens to be where I grew up. So I know Clear Spring. This acquaintance of mine, a fellow white man, is passing through on his way home from somewhere, and he decides to get off the road for a while, take a break, and stop in at one of the local bars there in Clear Spring and have himself a beer. He walks in, sits down at the bar, ordered his beer, first time there, total stranger to everyone in the place. Like I said, this is 2008, 2009, something like that. Barack Obama is either running for president or just gotten elected president or just taken office as president. It's early days of President Obama. The guy sitting next to my acquaintance at the bar turns to him and says, by way of making conversation, "So, what do you think about this N-word Obama?" Now, I wasn't there. Like I said, not my experience. But also, like I said, I know Clear Spring, I know Hagerstown, I know Western Maryland, and there is nothing about this that rings false. Do I believe that a white person would feel completely comfortable and totally unself-conscious about casually using a racial slur when speaking for the first time to a person he's never seen before in his life? Absolutely, I believe it. I'll give you one that is from my own experience. There's a lake near Clear Spring, just a little one, called Blair's Valley Lake. People go there to take their boats out, to fish, to just hang out around the lake. It's beautiful. I was there some years ago with a friend of mine and his kids. We were going to take my friend's boat out on the lake. There were some other guys using the boat ramp when we got there, so we were parked and just kind of hanging out. All white people. One of the guys at the boat ramp complained about some new environmental regulation that the state had just enacted, and his buddy said, yeah, well, that's what happens when you put a N-word in charge of a white man's world. The head of our State Department of Natural Resources was black. That's who he was talking about. Growing up around here, I cannot even count the number of times I've heard white people say the N-word. Within earshot of me, in conversations I was a part of, directly to me, with the assumption that I would be okay with it. Strangers, acquaintances, friends, people in my family. Sometimes I've had the guts to speak up, to call it out, to shut it down when I hear people talking that way. Other times, to my shame, I've stayed silent. But I've heard it, and other overtly racist language, spoken out loud with no shame, with no hesitation, for my entire life. Obviously, I'm not saying all white people talk this way when there aren't people of color around. That's not the case. But it is very much the case that some white people, some racist white people who have these feelings and opinions, have no problem at all frankly expressing those feelings and opinions in situations where they expect they can get away with it. And for a lot of them, that means any room with only white people in it. Sure, lots of racists have gotten smarter and more careful about what they say and how they say it. They know only to speak in dog whistles. They don't say anything that doesn't leave them room to play innocent if someone calls them out. But just remember, when Lee Atwater said that you can't go around saying N-word, N-word, N-word anymore, he was talking about politicians. There are still plenty of people who never got that memo. Racism is pervasive. And it takes many forms, and many of those forms are subtle and indirect. And that sort of hidden, under-the-table racism is extremely dangerous and difficult to combat, and it needs to be named and fought against whenever we find it. But the prevalence of that kind of racism doesn't mean the other kind. The gross, unabashed, out-in-the-open kind no longer exists. Yes, when they think they're safe, racists do still talk like that. And the safer they feel, the more they'll do it. And the more empowered they'll feel to not only speak their racism, but to act on it. I believe it. I know it. I'll never forget it. And neither should you.